Hey there, and welcome to Connect the Dots Learning Center podcast. I'm Stephanie Wagers, your host, and I'm so glad you're here. Whether you're a seasoned therapist, clinic owner, or just starting out, this podcast is your go to spot for insights, tips, and stories that'll help you connect the dots in your practice. Today's guest is Hannah Boeck, a former pediatric speech therapist who made the leap from therapy room to business strategist and founder of Cued Creative. If you've ever wondered how to market your practice, what actually needs to go on your website, or even what to post about on social media, this episode is packed with clarity and real talk. Hannah doesn't just build websites. She gets the therapy world. She's helped hundreds of speech therapists, OTs, and PTs grow their practices, increase their income, and finally feel confident showing up as a business owner. We're talking about burnout, marketing mistakes, mindset blocks, and how to build a business that actually fits your life. Let's dive in. Welcome, Hannah Boeck. I'm excited to chat with you today. You have a interesting history of being a speech therapist, but even being something prior to that, and then moving into creating Cued Creative. And I'm just really curious if you want to kind of backtrack and just kind of tell us your journey through that.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm Hannah. I was a pediatric speech therapist. I practiced from about 2013 and stopped practicing in 2021. So it wasn't a very long career. And actually, being a speech therapist was maybe my third or fourth career. I'm not sure. I've had a lot of different careers. Before going into speech therapy, I had worked in politics, I had worked in design, and then I had actually gone back to school and had my own interior design business. And I think that's where my love of design really kind of came to fruition.
Mm-hmm.
And then in 2008, I don't know, some people are old enough to remember, in 2008, the economy crashed.
Yes, it did.
And a lot of people weren't building houses and using interior designers. So my business went with the economy. And I found myself working in a corporate job and just thinking, this is not the life for me. And I wanted to do something that felt more fulfilling and more exciting. And I wanted to do something that felt stable. And so I literally Googled careers in demand that are recession proof. And at the top of the list was speech therapy. I think I put in the search that require advanced training because I wanted something where if I was going to invest in making a career move, it wasn't going to be open to the whole world. And so I found speech therapy, and that's how I found it. And I had no idea what a speech therapist did, like really very basic, like, oh, they work on R and S, kind of
Right, right.
very stereotypical view of that. I fell in love with the industry right away, and I had to do a year of post-bac before I could apply to graduate school. So I put myself through that, and then I put myself through graduate school. And I think, like a lot of therapists, I found out very quickly that it was a very demanding job, and the earning potential was not what I thought it was going into the career.
Mm-hmm.
So during my CF, I had my daughter and became a single mother. And that's when I really had to start looking at my life in terms of how can I build a life so I can support my daughter, survive in the expensive world that we live in. I was living in Portland at the time. So, that's an expensive city.
Yes.
And so a couple of years into being a speech therapist, the vision for Cued Creative was born. And there's a whole long story to that. But at the end of the day, what I wanted to do was still be really involved in this field because I believe so passionately about what, SLPs and OTs and PTs are doing. But at the same time, I wanted a way to increase my income. And for many years, it was just a side gig. Cued Creative was my side hustle for about 4 years.
While you were working in the pediatric industry. Yeah.
Yeah. So I worked full time. I'd pick my daughter up from daycare. I'd bring her home. I'd put her to bed. She was little, so she'd go to bed at like 7:30, 8 o'clock. And then I worked from about 8 p.m. to about 2 a.m. building this business for years. And, it's for anybody who's takes any sort of leap, there is that juggle for a while until you can go all in. And for me, COVID was the force to go all into running Cued Creative because there was nothing else the world had
Right.
changed, you know? And that's when I had to bet on myself and go all in, which is a very scary thing, as you know,
Yeah.
your own career.
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember you mentioning to me that you taught yourself how to code.
Yes. So before I started Q Creative, I just knew I knew I needed to do something else. The income I was bringing in, I could only afford to live in a 1-bedroom apartment. So my daughter had the bedroom and I set up the living room sort of like a studio apartment, and that's where my bedroom was.
Mhm.
And I was like, I have to figure out something to
Right.
take me to the next level. And I was like, well, the tech industry, there's
Yeah.
not a lot of women in it, and I feel like I could be really good in and like maybe move myself into a leadership role. So that was
Right.
my first step. My parents bought me a laptop because I didn't even have a laptop, and I started learning to code. And for a long time, I didn't know where I was going. It was like,
Mhm.
I just knew I needed something else. And so actually, I found this journal a few years ago, but I made this list of everything that I liked. And I wish I had it sitting here with me. I don't, but the list was, I like color. Like I really love color. Like color
Yeah.
brings me a lot of joy. I like projects with clear beginnings and clear ends. I like the ability to work autonomously. Like I just made this random list and literally had random things like
Yeah.
color, you know,
Yeah.
design. And I promised myself this one day, I thought, I have to do something else. And so I'm going to just one step forward. And as I move forward, I just trusted that the path would appear. And
Mhm.
so, I taught myself to code, and I was writing and I was blogging and I was kind of just doing these things. And then one day I built a website and it was really good. And so somebody said, hey, my private practice, we need a website. It was a coworker because I was working in
Okay.
early childhood. And I said, sure, I can build you a website.
Yeah.
And it was really good. And so then pretty soon it was like, oh, well, I heard you can build websites and you're really good at it. I'm like, I can do that for you. And that's kind of how it started. It was like the path just kind of continued to
Yeah.
show itself. And now today, we don't do extensive coding on our websites. My
Mhm.
philosophy is to set private practices up with the websites we build that they can manage themselves. So we build on front end editors, but that knowledge of code, like over the weekend, I was coding stuff for my
Wow.
business, and so it's like, it's still
Yeah.
there. I still use it.
Yeah. That's crazy. It just seems so challenging to me. I can't wrap my head around it, but it's just like anything else, right? You dip your toes and then you just learn and learn and learn. And then finally you kind of get it. So, yeah.
You do. And I think actually I was thinking about private practice the other day. I saw in a Facebook group, somebody asking a question about, well, how do you even know what to charge or whatever? And I'm like, you don't know anything.
Mhm.
But if we let not knowing anything stop us from taking the step forward, we will never activate and we'll
Right.
never follow our dreams. And so I didn't know what I was doing. I was just winging it and
Mhm.
learning. So that was
Yeah.
that was my journey. And I'm still doing that. I'm still winging
Yeah.
it every day.
Yeah. Well, tell me a little bit more about Cute Creative and the listeners. Like, what services do you offer? I know there's a lot of stuff, and just like,
Yeah.
why would somebody come to you?
So Q Creative, the whole mission and philosophy behind Q Creative is to help SLPs, OTs, and PTs build businesses that are
Mhm.
successful and support their lives. And so
Okay.
what that looks like is the bulk of what we do is website design. And we have two
Mhm.
kind of solutions that we offer. One is full service, meaning
Mhm.
you come to me and you say, hey, I need a website. This is for my practice. And we say, great. And we do it all. We rate your content. We source your stock images. I mean, it's not a typical web designer where you're having to write the content or find a copywriter. We do it all in house with an amazing team
Wow,
at
that's amazing.
therapists.
Because I
Yeah.
remember doing that. It was like,
Yeah.
I don't know what I wanted to say. I don't know.
Yeah. And it's really
Yeah.
hard because it's hard to
Mhm.
take that clinician hat off
Mhm.
and remember how to speak the plain client friendly terms. And that's why the writing piece for me is a huge part of what we offer. I would never have clients go out and try to figure that out on their
Mhm.
own in the full service package. But we also offer website templates. And website templates are for those people who are not ready to invest in a full service package. Or it's just they like to have the kind of the creative control and license. And the
Mhm.
website templates follow our same formula. They're designed for private practices, but they're what I call supported DIY. So there's video tutorials. You can purchase the package that comes with the content writing guide. So you're not like, what do I put on this site?
Right.
What am I supposed to write? It's like the content guide
Yeah.
gives you a lot of that. So those are kind of the two website solutions that we offer. And, we've built almost, I think, close to 1,000 websites at this point,
Wow.
which is wild. We do somewhere between 16 to 20 websites a month on most months. And we have slow months, but we've learned what works. And I will say that of those 1,000 sites, the people still in business, still out there doing it, it is just a couple of people that are on the site we built them. The first site I built is still standing and exactly the same as I built in 2016.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. So we do the website design, and then, in that effort to support people in the launch and growth phases, we have like digital guides. So we have a whole workbook on how to start a private practice. That's $99. So it's like, you don't need the $5,000 course. I've had people come to me and say that had everything in it. Like I did that course, then I bought that because I needed more like of a checklist.
Right.
So we offer that, and then other like workbooks and things like that to help you start the practice. And then on the growth side, we've got courses and products on how to run groups. So how to create leveraged income, which is a big thing,
Yeah.
How to develop passive income products. So how to think about your skills beyond the therapy room, because you've got a lot of skills. If you're a therapist, if you're a business owner, there's a lot of ways to take that knowledge and turn it into passive income. So that's a big one too. And then a handful of social media strategies and products too. So kind of the whole thing. You can come to us with the idea to start a practice and stay with us all the way until, a 7-figure business with multiple streams of income. And that's what a lot of our clients do.
Yeah. And developing that extra stream of income is so important. And I feel like as therapists, we're really bad at it because we don't want to charge anybody anything. And, you watch these people that are making thousands that have no knowledge. And we have so much knowledge to give our consumers. It's crazy. How do you give the practitioner confidence to go out and create something or help them figure out like what kind of niche to do?
Yeah. So I can't give anybody confidence, but
No, you
what
can't.
I can
That's
give
true.
people is awareness to recognize where they're blocked, why they're being blocked, and how to move through it. So the first thing I like people to do is start to think about what are the problems that I love to solve. It's kind of like that list I made. I'm like, I like color. It's like, well, I like talking to parents. I love it when a colleague calls and has a question about how do you negotiate a contract with a new hire? Think about the things that kind of get you excited, because I think that's the first place to start, is to find a passion place. And then you start to think about what are the problems that I'm solving all the time, or what is a problem that I solved that I would have paid money to not have to have gone through that myself. And that's a big one. Like you'll get through it and you're on the other side, you're like, I would have paid somebody $200 to tell me what to do. That took me 3 months, countless hours, a lot of tears. I wanted to throw in the towel, and we all have that. And the thing is that we have that from the therapy side. So the overcoming something, maybe a struggle with a difficult client who hasn't made progress. And finally, it's like you come at it from a different angle and you're like, everybody needs to do this.
Right.
Or I combine these two methods and this is really working. Then we have the running the business. So how did you make your first hire? How did you figure out how much to pay people? How are you outsourcing things? What systems are you setting up? There's a million things that if you run a private practice, you've had to figure out, and you would have happily paid somebody to teach you how to do.
You're right. You are so right. It's great advice. Yeah.
And then on top of it, what else we have? A lot of us are parents, and we have great advice, and we have a unique perspective. We are also, a lot of us are children to aging parents. And so we've got a unique perspective to help the aging population and the caregivers of loved ones who are going through dementia or recovering from stroke or things like that. So we have all of this perspective. Yet I think this idea of like, I always think about people live in a box, and like
Mhm.
we live in all sorts of size boxes, but
Yeah.
it's like the box of the therapy room. It's like I'm a clinician and this is what I do. And
Right.
to step outside of it can feel really scary. But we don't, when we just open the lid of the box and look, there's so much possibility, and there's so many cool things that we can do with all of the skills and the knowledge that we've acquired. And I'll say, I had this conversation with this woman. It was a few years ago, and it was, how sometimes people say a line and it just sticks
Yeah.
with you forever.
Yes.
Like
Uh-huh.
that line. She is a coach, and she teaches coaches how to create kind of a signature coaching, like niche coaching program. And she said,
Okay.
we're uniquely qualified to coach the version of ourselves that we just were. And that one really hit me, because
Wow.
this idea that we have to have all these advanced trainings or be these experts or have fully mastered this thing before we can teach it is incorrect.
Mhm.
Because if you think about it, like, how long have you had your business, Stephanie?
Oh my gosh. We've owned our own practice for 12 years, but I've been in pediatrics 25. Yeah.
Okay. So imagine when you first came out, your first year, all the things you
Yeah.
did now, right? Or your very
Mhm.
first year in business. 12 years later, it's really hard to remember what that was like. And
Yeah.
you can empathize, but you don't identify with the struggle of somebody in that moment. But
Yeah.
at year 3, you would have been uniquely qualified to coach somebody at year 1 in a totally different way.
Oh, that's such a great thought.
Yeah, because you were right there. So
Yeah.
we don't have to wait forever. And in fact, the further we get away from where the people that we're teaching and helping are, the more disconnected we are, and the harder it is to coach them through things like the
Mhm.
emotional blocks or the confidence blocks
Mhm.
or the things that come up and get in their way.
Mhm.
So yeah, I just like to encourage people, like, it's not, you can come out and be 2 years post grad school and be like, I have an idea, and you can
Right.
activate it.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. So
Well, yeah, that's amazing. I feel like because now when I try and look back and remember things or starting on practice, I mean, we've had so many ups and downs, but it's like you think you're going to remember it, but you really don't.
mhm.
Yeah. You kind of tuck the bad away. And the bad is what makes you grow, right?
Yeah.
Hard. Yeah.
And we're like, so Scale Smart Academy is the program that I run that teaches people how to create leveraged and
Hmm.
passive income. And leveraged income we think of as like running groups and camps, paid trainings, things where
Hmm.
you're maximizing your revenue for your time. And then
Hmm.
passive income is this idea of like, we have products we don't market on our
Hmm.
website other than a few social media posts, and we're making money. Um, but what I wanted to share, the reason I brought that up is because we're building out these new arms of Scale Smart. And in there's one all about getting paid speaking gigs. And then there's going to be a section on how to start a podcast. People have voices and you can start a podcast.
Hmm.
And we're doing this while I'm doing this. So I'm building this out, before I go take it to the students, I'm living it and
Hmm.
doing it. And I'm right there with them in it.
Hmm.
And so it's everything I'm figuring out, they're learning as well. Instead of me going,
Yeah.
well, I'm making 100,000 a year as a paid speaker. And they're like, well, that's so far out
Yeah.
of the zone of proximity. So I love this idea of the zone of proximity as well. When we think about that, like,
Right.
I'm with them and I'm going, oh, you're right. We do need to figure out TikTok. Like, I'm going to go figure it out. Then I'll
Yeah.
come and teach you, and it will be
Yeah.
fresh and relevant.
Yeah, because it's the small details that just get you stuck. It's like I get the general big concept, but sometimes you go to start, you know, drilling your way, and then all of a sudden it's like, I don't know how to do TikTok. How do I do a post on TikTok?
Yeah.
It's just, yeah. And it can make you feel dumb when people are like, well, you just need to start a podcast, and here are the 3 things to do. And you're like, I can't even figure out how to, whatever, record on Zoom so that's
Yeah.
so important that you're doing that. Yeah, I love that. Well, tell me, let's go into websites a little bit because I
Okay.
know clinic owners and people are we always think, oh, we need this or that on our website, but what are the three things that you see that you're like, oh, that definitely needs to be fixed? And or what are the three easiest fixes that you could do?
Okay. So the first thing I like to point out is that if you're in private practice, your website is not a diagnostic tool.
Mhm.
They have self-diagnosed or they have been referred by a professional who suggested that they need help, your clients. So by the time they land on your site, what they do not need, which is something I see all the time, are a list of the signs and symptoms or the definitions of what it is.
Mhm.
Articulation is it's like nobody needs that. It's a total
Right.
disconnect. So that's the first thing is that
Okay.
get the signs and symptoms and the definitions off. There is a
Okay.
caveat, and that is if what you offer is something like myofunctional therapy, for example, and your community is not really well versed in that, or craniosacral therapy, and people don't really know what that is,
Mhm.
that is the one time that we can kind of go, okay, yeah, let's give a couple examples of what you might be experiencing to know that this is the solution you need because it's not as mainstream as standard OT or standard,
Right.
communication therapy.
Yeah.
So that's the first one. The second one is the overuse of really technical jargon. And that's really hard for people because it's hard to remember how to explain it. Even though we do in the room with a client, we actually remove the technical jargon and get real. The second it's time to sit down, if you're writing your own content, whether it's on social media, on your website, wherever it is, it's like that goes out the window and it becomes really technical. So we have to remember we're writing for an 8th grade level reader, not a graduate student. And that means that we have to use terms that sometimes aren't the best. We don't love those terms like speech
Mhm.
therapist or late talker, instead of emergent language. But that client friendly term means that your content will get read. Because if we are writing with this technical jargon, the reader is instantly overwhelmed. Well, the brain is hardwired to conserve energy. If you've overwhelmed me, I'm not reading anything that you've written,
Mhm.
and there's a good chance I'm going to bounce off your site. So that's the next one. And then, I could go all day on content, but clear and concise language. If I can't land on your site and the first thing I see, I have to know who you are, what you do, where you're located, and how to get a hold of you.
Yeah,
That
I
means
know. I hate it when I have to dig for that.
Yeah. And like the main title should be Speech and Occupational Therapy for Children of All Ages in Atlanta, Georgia. That's not helping children live their best lives. Well, how? Like in a summer camp? Is it art class? Is it
Right.
horseback riding? Like what kind of best life? So clear, obvious. If I can figure that out, then I'm going to scroll. And
Yeah.
again, we just don't need to get pretty with the language. We need to be clear and concise
Mhm.
and solution focused.
Mm.
No parent is excited to pay for occupational therapy twice a week for the next 6 years. Nobody wants
Right.
to pay for that. It's really expensive. But you know what I do want to pay for? I want to pay for a child who doesn't melt down when their sensory system's
Mm.
overloaded.
Right.
I want to pay for a child who can develop awareness that they're getting overloaded and use a strategy to calm down.
Mhm.
I want to pay for a child who can come to me and say, Mom, I'm hungry, as opposed to not having the words or the ability to communicate.
Yeah.
So when we sell the benefits and the outcomes of our services,
Mhm.
I'm ready to pay you because that's the
Yeah.
outcome I want.
Yeah.
And because you haven't listed all the problems, I know the problems. I'm living them every day. You've shown me what's possible. You've inspired hope. And now I'm looking forward into the future and into this place, this desired outcome. And I'm really excited to work with your team because that's the world I want to live in.
Mhm. That's so important. It's so much of my mission is just connecting what we do for parents because, like you said, they'll come in for therapy. They watch you on the swing, they watch you this, that, and then you have these kind of sometimes nebulous goals that don't mean anything to parents. And if they don't get the reason, the back end reason, like you said, not melting down, being able to get dressed, being able to ask for a snack, they're just going to eventually lose interest and hope. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And I hear that. Like I have a friend and we were talking about occupational therapy for her child. And she's like, I don't know. I mean, why would I keep doing it? They're just playing.
Right.
I am like, oh my gosh, like I'm not just hearing, like, it's not a client in my room or hearing this on Facebook. It's like
Yeah.
this friend is saying, and I'm like, well, I think your child would benefit from OT,
Yeah.
but you're right. If you weren't explained to you, if nobody told you what the purpose of the play was,
Mm-hmm.
it looks like a lot of money to watch your child play with an adult.
Yes, 100%. Oh, that is such a huge message right there. Explain your why, explain your what.
Yes.
Yes.
Explain your
It's
why, explain your what, but it starts with your website. It starts with your marketing.
Yeah. So with kind of explaining that, what is your recommendation? Do you like video testimonies, like just kind of pictures that, suggest that? How do you recommend going about doing that?
I think it comes down to at first the words that you're using on the site. So
Mhm.
there's two parts to it. The words are the most important, but the photos that you use are going to support the story of the words. So
Mhm.
it doesn't have to look like, your stock photo doesn't have to look like a child in therapy. It's your child, a child living their best life, that the
Yeah.
ultimate outcome. That's what the image represents. And then the words talk about, here are the skills we're working on in therapy. Here's what we want your child, or what your child will be able to do, the goal of therapy, so that
Mhm.
your child can advocate for themselves at
Mhm.
school. They can regulate themselves, that meal times they're no longer melting down at a meal time, and they can sit
Yeah.
at the table with the whole family. You're talking about these outcomes. And
Mhm.
when we talk about the outcomes and the skills, a parent can very clearly see the absence of that in their lives. So we
Mhm.
don't have to talk about all the problems.
Yeah.
So it's going to start with the words. And I think, that's key. And when you can't, I'm going to get onto a little bit about using AI, but when you can communicate on your website that way, and it's your voice and tone, so that when they talk to you on the phone, you're communicating the same way.
Mhm.
They see your social media, your marketing materials, it's very consistent with the language. There's a connection, and they're not disconnecting at any moment
Mhm.
on your marketing
Mhm.
journey. It's hard to write like that, which is why, like, with our full service, we do the writing, but
Mhm.
you can write like that. And I tell a lot of people, if they're doing the website templates that we offer, take your phone, record the next inquiry call with a parent, just
Mhm.
record yourself talking so you can get some of this language. You can take that recording and transcribe it into ChatGPT and have ChatGPT then help you from there. You can pretend or sit down actually with somebody. Like if you have a 10-year-old, daughter, or you have a friend who doesn't know anything about what you do, say,
Mhm.
hey, I need to record myself having a real conversation about what I do and what it is, like how I help people, and then record it. Because sometimes just
Mhm.
talking to the phone, it doesn't, you'll lose that connection, and
Yeah.
you don't have the feedback of people getting confused.
Right. Right.
And then you can take that and put that into ChatGPT and have ChatGPT help you write your content with really clear guidelines about using your voice in these things. But you can't just have ChatGPT write your
No.
content.
No.
No, not only will you downrank in Google, Google downranks your site, but ChatGPT uses these really recognizable patterns that
Mhm.
everybody's picking up on now. And so you'll create an instant disconnect with your content if you do that.
Hmm. That's great advice. I love that. It's fantastic. So kind of thinking about, like, let's say a clinic doesn't have a marketing team. What is one thing they can do every week to kind of get a bigger presence online or bring in more business?
Yeah. So I have some opinions about social media that I'll share with you, and
Yeah, please.
maybe they go against the grain. So I would say, if you, not even every week, if you wanted to just stay in the driver's seat of your marketing, if your website is solid, it looks good, it's converting, you can see that on Google Analytics in the Google Search
Mhm.
Console. If you're getting a lot of traffic, but your phone's not ringing, your website's the problem.
Okay.
If you're getting a lot of traffic and you're getting the same amount of inquiries or phone calls, then your website's working for you. So what I would say you could do pretty consistently outside of kind of boots on the ground marketing and connecting with referral sources is
Mhm.
blogging. And the reason blogging helps is that Google has a high priority in terms of how it ranks websites if a
Mhm.
website has helpful content and fresh content with keywords. So those three things are really important, but we do not need to rewrite our website content every month. That would be exhausting. But
Right.
we can write a blog post every month and it will be helpful, keyword focused, and fresh. And that will, over time, really help you start to rank on Google. Again, you cannot use ChatGPT to write your blog post. It will not help you. It will downrank you. You can do that same philosophy of like, how do I know my kid needs speech therapy? That's the title of your blog. Talk the whole answer in, have ChatGPT clean it up into a post.
Okay.
But
Right. But you don't just say, write me a post about you. It needs to come from your brain. When you say keyword focused, how do you know what those keywords are?
We have tons of freebies in our freebie library, which is just qcreative.com/freebie. There's several, maybe 2 or 3 SEO keyword freebies in there. But it's going to be real simple. It's going to be occupational therapy for kids in Seattle, Washington. It's like, if you can get the basic term, the population, and the location in your blog post 3 to 5 times, you're already on the right path. Speech therapy for late talkers, speech therapy for stuttering. Are you searching for speech therapy near me? Amazing. Here's what we offer. So you can get those terms, but it's basically going to be at minimum your service plus the population. Myofunctional therapy for adults, myofunctional therapy for tongue ties. So just kind of thinking through, it's not that hard to think, what would a parent search in Google? I promise they're not searching speech language pathologist near me. They're searching speech therapist. So kind of thinking through a average person, and that will get you on the way of coming up with keywords. We have a blog course. It's got all the keywords. It's got 300 topics and titles and a formula. So you can pick the title and then it will give you the associated keywords in the order of ranking, like search volume. And then you use this formula and you can write blogs pretty fast doing that.
That's nice. Wow, that's crazy. I'm going to have to check that out. We have our team write blogs, so it's not, I don't have to do them all or hardly any anymore. But yeah, it can just be kind of daunting. It's like, what do I write about this time? Yeah, just to have it laid out would be great.
Yeah, and the blog course actually does have tips for how to utilize your team to do it, because if you have a team, by all means, everybody could be writing.
Yeah. So kind of looking at how can a clinic share that what they're doing works, so proof that therapy is working on their website or social media without kind of crossing those HIPAA lines. I mean, obviously there's some basics like don't put their name, you've got to have a photo release and all that, but do you have any other tips?
Yeah, so you can use their name so long as you have permission. So the first thing is, if you want to use a testimonial on your website or social media, then get a testimonial release signed. And we, in our freebie library, have a free lawyer drafted testimonial release. So you can download it, add your business name to it, and have clients sign that. That's the first one. The thing that most people don't know that's really important, you cannot copy a Google review and put it on your website. You cannot copy a Facebook review and put it on your website, because that's where you start to get into the HIPAA issues. You have a few issues. If you're copying reviews, not using a plugin where the reviews are loading in, meaning if it was deleted, it would be deleted off your website, or altered by the author, it would be changed, meaning I see it all the time. I just copy the review and then I type it into my website, or I type it onto my social media. The HIPAA issue is, you have now said this person's a patient at our practice without their permission. It's a copyright violation to those platforms. You cannot just copy content from those platforms and just put it onto your website. And the review can be altered or deleted at any point by the author. So what you now put on the site could be false information when it's changed. So you cannot do that. There are plugins, Elfsite, ELFSITE, I'm pretty sure is what it is, .com. It's like $5 a month, and it will load in your Google reviews onto your website. And you can say like only load in 5-star or 4-star and above reviews. So that's one way you can do it. the thing is with testimonials is like just a big giant testimonial. Nobody reads it. So you can edit testimonials, you can cut them down and, or pull out a couple of high impact statements for your website. I love that. I love video testimonials from families. I think that you can, you don't need a ton of them, but a handful of those, or doing case studies in your, like in the blog. Or, Johnny came to us with XYZ. This is what we did. Here are the outcomes. And then maybe a video or a testimonial from the parents or the client themselves. That can be really high impact. As far as testimonials on social media go, a post with a bunch of words is not going to get read. So we like to do a green screen with testimonials. And I think maybe in our Instagram course, we talk about this, but I even have a post on my social media somewhere about how to do this. But it's like, hey, look, this amazing testimonial we got from a parent in our practice. Their son came in and this is what happened. And you kind of tell the story and the writing's there. And that's going to get you a lot further than just
the testimonial.
Well, nobody's going to read it. It's
right. Yeah, I know. Nobody reads anything anymore.
Well, so you have to remember, this kind of segues into social media. Social media is an entertainment platform.
Yeah.
We're on there for entertainment. So if you give me a bunch of words, I'm scrolling on by to the thing that looks more fun to read.
Yeah. So that's a great lead in. So like as a practice owner, how do we need to be thinking about social media? You're like you need to be an entertainer, an educator, all of it at the same time. So how do we do that?
So this is not a blanket statement for every private practice. I think every private practice needs to assess their own referral sources. And if you don't know where your referrals are coming from, today's the day to start finding out. On your contact inquiry form on your website, how did you hear about us? First thing on the phone, how did you hear about us? You need to know where your referrals are coming from, because based on a recent poll I did, and of the thousands of clients I've worked with, very few of my clients and the people that I polled get referrals from social media. Where our business is just not, it's going to change. It will, because it's inevitable. But currently, parents or, like caregivers of loved ones are not going to Instagram to find their OT, SLP, PT. That's how I found the woman who colors my hair. Like I searched balayage in Kansas City. So yes, it is for some industries, but that is not how it's happening currently. So if we have finite resources in terms of time and effort and energy, to put a lot of that into social media or money, hiring a social media coach or not coach manager, to me is not a great return on your investment. I think you are better off blogging and building relationships with referral sources in your area before you're dumping a lot of effort and energy into that. If you have a big team and you have the ability to be posting all the time on Instagram and Facebook, by all means do. It's not going to hurt you. Yeah. But I think the purpose today for, like, I'm going to think about just Instagram for a moment, and Instagram presence is to say, yes, we are legitimate. Here's a little bit more behind the scenes, or here's a little bit more information about us. If you're recruiting, it's a great place to showcase your team culture. Here, like kind of behind the scenes and in the clinic and our team, and we're out doing things. That's going to help a lot with recruitment efforts. And I do, like, I'll go to people's Instagram. I'm constantly going and finding their Instagram to look to see a little bit more about what I can find on the website. Yeah. Again, it's not for the therapist for my child. It's like for the landscaper I was hiring to see if he had examples of his work, a very different thing. So my opinion of social media is it's the last thing on your checklist in terms of getting clients. Now that is different for some practices. There are some practices that they offer a coaching service, or they offer these other services, or they're super niche and social media is working for them. Myofunctional therapy could be one where social media is working a little bit better because there's such a visual for the after in many cases. So I like to say, there's a couple options. The first is, if we're going to downgrade the priority of social media, post once a week. Just take it to that level. Super simple. A once a week post. You could schedule out a whole year and then be done with it. And if you are inspired to post in the moment and real time videos, you can put those to your stories. Now, remember, stories are only shown to your followers. So it's not going to help you grow your audience, but it will show behind the scenes to the people following you.
Yeah.
The next option is the 9 grid solution that we just launched a couple months ago, and it's been very popular. And we basically came up with this solution where it's 9 posts. So you can buy our kit, you can do it yourself. 9 high impact posts that go onto your grid. You've got 9 beautiful posts to talk all about your practice, and you're done. And again, you can just post to stories and you can just post it and leave it. And now you've got a presence, but you're not struggling and battling the algorithm and trying to grow an audience, which more often than not is just other therapists, not your ideal clients.
Yeah.
So that's a great solution too. And I like both of those for people that just don't have the bandwidth at this time to be investing in social media.
Yeah, that's great advice. You mentioned blogs a couple times. So if you can recommend one blog that every practice should do this month, is there a certain topic?
How do I know if my child needs X therapy? Yeah.
Great. Easy.
Yeah. It's super easy and it's really powerful because and that's, again, I'm saying we're not a diagnostic, your website's not a diagnostic place, but that positions you as an expert. It gives a little bit more information. The parent who's on the fence is going to read that, or the client who's on the fence is going to read that. And so they're more likely to read that and call you than if they were on the fence. It's less likely that they would call you.
I know it appears a lot of your business is helping clinics, therapists kind of niche their practice into like their ideal client. Can you talk a little bit about that? I know there's some fear in like, if I do that, I'm going to eliminate everybody else. And just like,
Yeah. So I think there's a couple ideas to niching. One is like you get hyper focused and you're like, we do Gestalt language processing and that's all we do. Or we do myofunctional therapy and that's all we do. The other is eliminating some populations and groups that you have included into who you want to serve because you're operating from a place of fear. And it's that fear of, but what if an adult calls and then I don't serve adults and what would I do? And it's like, well, then you'll have more room for the people that you do want to serve if it's pediatrics. Or it's like the person who wants to serve adults and goes, I heard it's faster to fill a pediatric caseload, so I guess I'll take them. It's like, now all your spots are kids and your referrals are kids. So as far as niching goes, the first thing is, if you want to serve everyone because you are deeply passionate about serving all disorders and all ages, and you are really good at it and you just want to do it, then do it. Do what you want. That's why you started a business. But if you're trying to serve everyone because you're so afraid that you might leave money on the table by not serving everyone, you're going to find that your marketing will be really watered down because it's very hard to market to the ENTs and the SNFs and the preschools. And, it's like, and the dentists, and it's like, you don't have that much time.
Yeah.
So pick the population that you either love. If you love working with autistic kids, then focus on that. If you want to leave the door open to also treating, speech sound disorders or something like that, or, if your passion's sensory, but you want to leave the door open to doing maybe handwriting, you really enjoy that you can do that. You can have both. But I love to pick either what you love or pick the thing that there's an above average need for in your community. And those two things will help you get off the ground faster. But I do think when somebody comes to me and they want a niche, for example, complex feeding disorders, and they go, I'm going to niche down to complex feeding disorders. I'm starting my practice and I'm going to be private pay only. One of the questions I ask everybody is, how fast do you need to be making money in your practice? Is this a side hustle? And so you can grow slow and afford to be that niche from the beginning? Or are you like, oh, I quit my full-time job and this has to be my full-time salary? Then I'm going to tell you, it's going to be a slow grow if you're hyper niched. and especially if you're hyper niche and your private pay,
Mhm.
as compared to being willing to serve a few more populations or disorders.
Yeah.
So that's something to consider too.
Yeah. That makes a ton of sense. Well, I know you have something else up your sleeve. You're working on a new project called What About Me Era. Can you kind of tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So because I'm finding myself in midlife in the what about
Yeah.
me era, you know, as a single mom with now an almost 11-year-old, I have a little bit more breathing space to kind of
Mhm.
ask, what do I want? And so I've been looking hard at my life. And I think this is probably where like Scale Smart Academy and things like that have come from of like, how can I build a life so the second half, the second chapter of my life fits my life? The world around me is like, oh, I'm not hustling all day long. I'm not working all day long, but I have built a business that allows me to take vacation or go to my
Yeah.
daughter's, dance performance. And that's kind of the what about me era is what do I want? And then how can I journal on that and create that vision? And then how do I backwards chain my life to arrive in that moment? And so my projects related to that are I'm writing a book. Um, I have a podcast. We've recorded like 20 episodes with my sister, and that's launching later this fall in 2025. And that's called Dear Honey.
Okay.
But I'm also launching a podcast for Cube Creative. So it's called the Scale Smart Podcast, helping people grow and scale successful businesses. And that's launching in September. And the idea is really to build a business that we love,
Mhm.
and not, I did this, I'm guilty of this, and I'm unraveling it. But I started a business only to give myself a job that was more stressful and required more of me and paid me less than like the last job I had. And that was the beginning. I think
Yeah.
every therapist has done that one.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
what do I want? And I just got back from a 3-week road trip with my daughter where I worked maybe 6 hours in those 3 weeks because I've built a business that fits my life and doesn't run it.
Amazing. And you talked about doing retreats with this, is that right?
Yeah. So our goal is to have a retreat in 2026. We're kind of putting the logistics together on that. But, I have been working with therapists for so long,
Mhm.
which is primarily mostly women. I mean,
Yeah.
98% of our clients have been women.
Mhm.
And that's kind of this next chapter, this what about me era and the retreats. It's not just for therapists, it's for women who are going, wait, I have been helping these clients and raising a family and taking care of all of these things. What can I do to fill my own bucket
Yeah.
in my cup so that I can show up and do that with so much joy and passion instead of running
Yeah.
on empty?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so excited for this. I can't wait for your book and your podcast. It sounds like, I mean, it just sounds like a ton of time that you're pouring into all this, but
Yeah, I've got
yeah.
a great team that helps me implement things. I couldn't do it without a team at this level. For a long
Mhm.
time, I did it all myself.
Mhm.
So yeah, between the team and then Cube Creative, that we run so, I mean, we've been doing it for so many years now that it's like we run such a smooth operation that it's freed up my time to focus on Dear Honey and my book, Soul Strategy.
And Dear Honey, what is that podcast going to be about?
So the Dear Honey podcast is for women in the era who are saying, what about me? And it's
Okay.
conversations to inspire women to take up space, to go after their dreams, and honestly, to start to manifest and build a life that they love.
Mm.
And that's what Dear Honey is all about. And my sister's my co-host. And that's, I mean, it's just my pure passion project. And Soul Strategy is my personal transformation journey, but sort of how to walk somebody through the process of stepping a little bit outside the box that they've been
Mhm.
living in. But it's okay to be, I'm a type A person. I'm like, it's like follow the rules and kind of
Yeah.
this journey of stepping a little bit outside of that to come into myself over the last several years. So that's that book. So yeah, that's my next chapter. But
How exciting.
yeah.
Excited. Yeah.
I was like,
And
I'm not creating anything new, but I
but
started
I just
two
have two
podcasts.
podcasts and a books, and I'm going to do a retreat.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. And I know you do a little bit of coaching,
Mhm.
also like private coaching.
Yeah.
So when you're coaching, what are you finding that most people, what are the problems that most people are bringing you?
Well, I would say in many ways, I'm a bit more of a consultant than a
Mhm.
coach. So when people
Okay.
come to me with like specific business problems, I'm, I need to raise my rates and here's how much money I'm making and I need clients, then I'm consulting with them on their
Mhm.
practice and their growth strategy.
Mhm.
The coach side, which is always built in even into those more consultative sessions, tends to be around mindset and stepping into what it actually means to be a business owner or a CEO.
Mhm.
And I think, like I said, so many people created private practices just to basically be a clinician over here, now have more responsibility and be a clinician without ever coming to this next level and going, what does it mean to actually be the CEO of this company, even if it's just
Mhm.
yourself? And the mindset blocks around that and that fear
Mhm.
sometimes that we have around what does it mean to grow and what does it mean to make more money? People have a lot of money stories and a lot of
Mhm.
blocks around that. And I
Yeah.
want to help all these people and I don't want to charge, I want to do it for free. And oh, this family can't afford. And, how can we own our expertise, but also stay true to our values? Because many of
Mhm.
us are helpers. That's what we're here on earth to
Yeah.
do. And so how can we find that balance and then
Yeah.
protect ourselves and our energy and time so that we've got something left at the end of the day for our families and our own dreams.
Yeah. So important. Well, it was so fantastic to talk with you. How can people find you? I'll put in my show notes, but you've
Okay.
got Cute Creative. I'll put that there. And then, is there a link to your podcast yet or not yet?
Yeah. So the podcast, well, it's not, I don't have a link to the actual podcast, but the
Okay.
podcast on the website's cutecreative.com/podcast.
Okay.
If people are interested in being a guest, you can log in there and apply to be a guest. But that's where, all the updates will be. But cutecreative.com has all of the stuff, all the courses, all the services. And then it's Cued Creative on Instagram, CUED Creative. So yeah,
Okay.
that's where you can find me. And then the Dear
Awesome.
Honey podcast is our other Instagram.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's
Awesome.
that's for people who are looking for just real conversation with real women. And we have so many cool guests that we've interviewed
Yeah.
that are just so inspiring.
Great. Well, you've dropped so much knowledge just in this hour. It's amazing. So hopefully people will look you up and get even more.
Yeah, for sure. I'm always here and people can DM me too with their questions. I love to have the conversations with people and help them find the right path. And if I'm not the right solution in any shape or form, I usually know somebody that is. So I'm always here to help point people in the right direction.
Fantastic.